great, of course, on the field, but a lot of them off the field have been wonderful. So I just thought it was important. I'll share some of that stuff with you guys here today. If you do have any questions, definitely drop them in the chat. I'll be glad to answer them, as Brad brings them up to me. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. So we're going to go ahead, Brad. Okay. All right. Should I go ahead and get started, Coach? Okay. You're talking on mute.
All good, man. All good. All
right. Cool. All right. So, again, I shared a couple of things about me. So some of the things I'm going to share with you guys are some principles. First thing I'm going to start off with is just a little bit about our culture. So at Brandywine, when I got to Brandywine as an assistant, we were 5-35 over the last 4 years. They were not known for football. You couldn't even get them to line up and walk straight. You had kids that were stealing from each other, all kind of things that were going on. So our first years as an assistant, our head coach spent a lot of time just trying to put some discipline into the program. So once we were able to clean that up, we were able to focus a little bit on football, but it was definitely tough. So when I took over, our head coach had stepped down in, I want to say it was like April. I got the head job in June, and you guys know how that goes, right? You start in June, season starts in August. Kind of tough to really put a team together. Long story short, that year we had graduated like all the seniors the year before, and I want to say, we have maybe 5 seniors on the team I took over. So we ended up going 2-8. It was a bad 2-8. My first game as a head coach, people showed up to support me, and we lost 42-0, and didn't score an offensive touchdown until week 7. So it was brutal, really brutal, really bad. A lot of things I learned from that. And the one thing I was set out to do is put together a culture that even though we may not have won early on the field, I wanted to win off the field with the kids, to get the kids into the program, to build the necessary things that we would need. So I'm just going to jump into our presentation. I got some slides for you guys. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them off in the chat, and I'll be glad to stop and answer any questions you guys have. So, all right. Okay, hopefully all you guys can see my screen. So real quick. All right. Okay, so we'll start off with some of the things we do, especially this year with COVID going on. If you guys haven't taken the time to identify this, and I'll say this before I go ahead, if you haven't taken the time to identify your culture and put it in writing, I strongly suggest you do it. Once we put this in writing, it really changed the way my kids saw our program. It's one thing to talk about your programs and your culture, and who you are, and it's another thing to have it in writing for your kids to see. Another thing I also say, so a lot of what I got influenced by was PJ Fleck at Minnesota. If you guys know him, he does a great job with the row the boat, and he has all these fancy words and acronyms, and his mantra, and it's really great. People have bought into it, and he's brought it from when he was at Western Michigan all the way up till Minnesota. So I did study a lot of him. I studied a lot of other cultures, especially at the college football landscape, from Ohio State to me being a Gators fan down in Florida. And the thing was, I wanted to find something that I believed in. When you guys start, if you haven't already, make sure that whatever it is you're giving your team, you believe it also. Because if you just copy somebody else's, program or rules, which is something that I did earlier in my years, it's there, but you really don't believe it. But once you put together something you believe, it really changes the way you coach, and your kids know when you're authentic about it. So I definitely strongly suggest, putting together something in writing for you to have, for your assistant coaches to see, for your parents to see, and for your kids to see. That really defines your program. Okay, so for us, when we say culture, okay, culture is simply just connecting people. We have a group of kids now, I will say, versus when like I said, when I first got there, they are connected on so many levels, from hanging out in school to hanging out outside of school, to talking about schoolwork, to competing against each other with their schoolwork. And I thought that was super important for us to have. Also, we want to connect with the people in the school, okay, teachers, okay, your administration, your community. But the best way I sum it up is culture is just connecting people. And also a big thing is knowledge, beliefs, and habits, right? Those are some of the things that can change your program. Does everybody know what the beliefs are? Okay, does everyone have the same habits in that group? Okay, when we're talking about culture, we want to have the same habits. We want them to be good habits. Okay, some ways that we know something is working. And the best example I found was, if you look down the middle, it says bad teams equal nobody leads, average teams equal coaches lead, elite teams equals players lead. So I feel like, we've been an average team for a while when I got to Brandywine. And part of that reason was the coaches were the leaders on the team. Even from my time as an assistant to the time I took over as head coach, the coaches were the leaders on the team. And when you look at some of those better teams, I played at Concord High School. I was captain of our first championship team in 2003. And the one thing I remember is we had really good leadership from our players. Our coaches didn't have to tell us anything. So that was something I definitely decided to focus on. When you look at those elite teams, the players lead, they'll run practice. And that was a point that we wanted to get to. So if you guys are familiar with Urban Meyer, one of the things I did was, number one, I read his book, Above the Line. If you haven't read it, it's a great book, Above the Line by Urban Meyer. And he talks a lot about some of the things he does to build culture at Ohio State and things he did at Florida, along with Bowling Green. One of the things he did was he started a group of leaders for his players, and they call it the 9U. It was 9U, so 9 units strong. 9 units strong was something he started where he had a leader from each position group elected by the players, and they would be kind of like a leadership council, leadership group, and they called it 9 units strong. They would meet, he'll meet with them, they'll go over stuff, they'll read a book, maybe they go to lunch, but they were kind of like you could say like a player liaison. They made some decisions, but they were the leaders of the team. And it, kind of struck me. I said, man, what can we do that's similar? So I took the same concept, changed the name, and so we have what we call the Pac 9. Okay, so our Pac 9 are leaders from each position group, from offense and defense. We meet roughly every other week. And we talk about some things on the team. We also go over some concepts, give them definitions on leadership, spending some time with my kids. We're looking to do some summer reading, right? We'll pick a book that will help better them as leaders, because you can coach your kids to be leaders. So we have taken this time to take our Pac-9 leaders and really put them on the forefront, especially during the pandemic. It's kind of tough when you can't do all the things you want to do. But when your players are leading your team, it can really change and revolutionize the way your team operates. So, yeah, that was a great thing I got from Urban Meyer, along with a lot of other great nuggets. But Above the Line is the book. Check it out. You can get a lot of things from it. So with that being said, I came up with a concept or a philosophy, I would say, based off of some of the things I read, taking things from, like I said, PJ Fleck and others, building my own culture, okay, and putting together what I call the Bulldog Standard. So the Bulldog Standard is not just going as hard as you can, but going as hard as you can the exact right way. So, I shared a Bible verse, that just something that is definitely personal to me. Let us not become weary in well-doing, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we don't give up, right? So we teach our kids, finish, do everything, till the very end. But that first thing, all right, if I say that, my kids know exactly what I'm talking about and my kids can repeat it, because that is the standard by what we judge our kids, right? Not just going as hard as you can, because before they would say, all right, go out there and go as hard as you can. No, we're saying, don't just go as hard as you can, do it the exact right way. And my kids know that. And they'll get on each other. They'll be like, Coach, and they even joke about it, but they remember it. They say, he's not doing it the exact right way. He's not doing it the exact right way. And that's where the change started coming in our program, right? All our kids can hold each other accountable because we have one standard that everybody is judged by. Our coaches, we started to apply this as a staff, right? Not just being coaches who blame kids if something goes wrong, did we do it the exact right way? Did we put our kids in the best position to be successful, right? Did we give our best that week, right? If I answer yes to that, right, I know I'm living up to the Bulldog Standard. So again, it was important for me to have a standard that I want to believe in, my coaches can identify with, the players can identify with, right? So that's our universal standard, that one thing, no matter if you're in shape, out of shape, okay, lineman, skill guy, everyone can live by the same standard. Okay, so that's definitely important. If you haven't established something similar to that. Okay, so for us, when we talk about our culture, I like to say we're a push culture, right? This is the word we came up with, push. All right, push is our acronym for purpose, urgency, synergy, and heavy hitters. Kind of came to me again as I was going through some of the PJ Flex stuff and, some of my other mentors. I talked to a coach down at Tennessee Tech, just seeing what everybody was doing, studying culture for a year. And this is something that I felt we could use here at Brandywine. So when we talk about purpose, purpose is the reason why you do it, right? What is our goal? One thing I have our kids do is they make a personal purpose statement. Some of the kids wrote it down on a note card, some of the things that they're passionate about, and they set goals. Just to have goals for yourselves. I'm a big goal setting person. I try to set anywhere from 30 to 50 a year, just to make sure I'm challenging myself. But we have each kid come up with some sort of personal purpose statement. Also, if you see on there, it says, what is your goal? And we have pathways. So pathways is something that revolutionized our program for sure. I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But that was a major difference in how our kids now approach life and definitely school. Okay, next we had the U was for urgency, right? We wanted our kids essentially to act now. Okay, we wanted our kids to be on the move. We wanted our kids not to just move around because, coach blew the whistle, I guess I'll move. No, we wanted our kids to have a sense of urgency in everything they do, right? One of my favorite quotes, right? If it is important to you, you'll find a way. If it's not, you'll find an excuse, right? So when that whistle blows, if football is important to you, you're moving. When the bell goes off, you're moving. Especially with COVID going on, that was something that was important. We didn't have time, right? No one had time. We had a month to get ready, so we didn't have time to waste. So it was important that our kids understood every minute and second was valuable to us. And then you see at the bottom, it says, we wanted to establish an outcome-focused culture, right? So a task-focused culture is, here's what we got to do. Hopefully we get it done. An outcome-focused culture, right, says, because of how we do things, this is going to happen. Because of how we practice, this is going to happen. Because of how we approach things, this is going to happen. And that's something that we are taking to the next level every year, right? Outcome-focused cultures, right? Instead of just writing things down, create an environment to where results have to happen for you. Okay, the S in push is synergy. Okay, that's just working together. We try to get our kids to understand that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, right? One of our biggest problems we had this year was we had one game where we just had kids that were just selfish. That was the only word we can come up with. They were selfish, and it was like killing us. We were winning and we won the game, but some of the kids had played so selfish. It got to the point I just got mad. We ended up having what I called we called it the leadership practice. And that was where all the kids who were playing selfishly were on one team and the rest of the team was on the other team. Because they were acting like they didn't need the whole team. And we need everybody to win. You know, we don't have a 6'5" quarterback. You know, we don't got guys running a 4-3. I don't got giant linemen. We need every single person out there. So whatever it takes to get those kids to realize that, I'm willing to do it. Okay, but we use that for synergy. Okay, and then the last one was heavy hitter. When we talk about a heavy hitter, simply an impact player. Okay, an impact player. Do you impact the game, right? Do you make an impact on the field and off the field? So when we talk about a heavy hitter, we're not just talking about a kid that hits hard. We're also talking about a kid that, you know what, he goes to class on time, he does his work, he's respectful, he helps out others, he's a part of the community, right? That's the kind of kid we're talking about, impact players, positively. Some people think that just because you're good on the field, that you're just a great person overall. Not at Brandywine, okay? That's all I can tell you, not at Brandywine. So we wanted to make that clear what type of player we were looking for. And again, the more you have in writing, when parents see it, kids see it, they really do understand, oh, okay. Oh, that's why coach is that way. Oh, okay. And then hopefully they understand what you're looking for. So try to make that as clear as possible. Okay, so when we take that acronym, the one thing we came up with, which was kind of our our motto this year, it was push the sled. Okay, so push the sled. If you look at the illustration, you'll see some guys in the background watching the one guy on the sled. And I asked my team, what do you see in this picture? And they'll say, there's a guy hitting the sled and there's a guy standing in. There's other guys watching. And so what we did was take that picture and just emphasize and say, hey, look, it takes everybody to push the sled. You can't just do it alone. It takes everybody to push the sled. And so what we did is then take this whole concept and apply it to pretty much our whole season and way of life. Those guys watching, what happens if you push the sled and they're watching? The sled's going to go crooked, right? But when they all hit the sled at the same time, it should go straight. So the best thing about it was a football structure that applies to everyone, and it involves everybody doing, right? This involves everybody doing, even the kid that doesn't start. Somehow he's involved, okay? And we wanted to make that pretty clear. Another thing about pushing the sled, it has to be consistent. So we stress to our kids, especially like in the weight room, consistency is everything. If you're not consistent, you're not going to see results. So we kind of really put an emphasis on pushing the sled. Now, one of the things that we had this year was a lot of new kids who never played football, never really understood the game. And we're saying to ourselves, how can we get these kids involved, right? How can we get them to understand some of the concepts of football? They have no experience. I've never met them. They're just out here for the first time. We got COVID going on. It was a lot to handle for some kids and some parents. So what I wanted to do was make sure that everybody knew how pushing a sled should look. All right, let me see. It says I paused my window. Hold up. I got to get my program to respond. I'm going to stop share for 1 second, Coach. Okay. So I got a video embedded in there. and I want to get it to load.
No worries, coach. No rush.
I don't know what just happened, but my PowerPoint said not responding. All right, let me restart the program. Sorry. But so what I have is a little clip of just let me see. All right. Okay, let me pull this up. I think I got it back. Hopefully I got it back. Okay, I think I'm back now. There we go. Sorry, guys. All right, so what I did was I found a clip of the University of Miami. And in that clip, they were pushing the sled. This is something they do at the end of every practice. They push the sled, all of the offensive linemen. So what we started doing was, again, we wanted our kids to really buy in. So we started doing this at the end of our practices, right? That's our motto. This is who we are. All right, we're going to push the sled. So there we go.
We get started with Mark, all David? Yeah, you're right. We get started with Mark? Yeah, for sure. It's good, big dog. You all right? Want to knock this out?
All right, so if you guys noticed in that video, right, all of, number one, their linemen are huge, right? They're ginormous, they're big, but they all got down low and all of their levels were roughly the same. So that was something I really wanted my kids to see. Wanted to see what it looked like when everyone's head, everyone's body, all your form was correct. What it looked like when we hit the sled and then revert back to the exact right way, right? That's what it should look like. So some things about it, right? It doesn't go in circles. It doesn't move, right? When everyone doesn't push the sled, it goes in circles, and your task is not accomplished, right? But when we push the sled, it moves in one direction. Everyone's working together, right? Everyone's moving with a sense of urgency, right? Every player makes an impact, and we reach our goals. All right, so after I show them this, right, again, including all of our things from push inside of our description, at the very end, I have asked them the question, so who will push? So now the challenge is out there. Okay, I have one of those little, well, before we get to that, first of all, it starts with the coaches. I have to be one of the ones out there, pushing. Then the players, then it trickles down to the parents, the school, and the community. Okay, and that's the order in which it should go, because it has to start, and we have to believe with it or in it as a program. Okay, so I put the button out there for them. I also have one of those little buttons you get from like Staples. So every kid that accepts the challenge, they push it, and the button says that was easy, right? So it's easy to push the button, right? But now you actually got to do the work. Okay, so that's our like basic culture thing that we put in and we install. Again, showed it to my kids. All my kids know it. Are there any questions about that part of the culture stuff?
I don't think
before I move on.
I don't think so. And again, just a reminder, guys, if you guys do have questions at any point in time, please do not hesitate to put them in the chat, and Coach will definitely get them answered, and I will stop Coach and we'll answer your questions. So again, please do not hesitate. Great job, Coach.
So, thanks. I got a couple other things I'll show you guys, and then, we'll go ahead and on with it. So some of the things that changed the way we do things at Brandywine, again, winning on and off the field. Just some of the things we do outside of the program. So one of the things we started doing was having like a function. So a pool party, that's one thing we have. If you have somebody with a pool, have a pool party. Kids love it. Have a pool party, a barbecue, have games for them. That's something that's been great for us. Another thing that we did that was pretty cool, my defensive coordinator is crazy. He started taking the kids to a haunted house. So if you really want to see the character in some of your kids, take them to a haunted house. The toughest kids will go running scared. If you have not done that, plan it. Take maybe your captains or, something like that. Go to a haunted house. You want to see your toughest kids. When somebody pops out, you'd be surprised who the toughest kids are in that haunted house. They freak out. We do that every year. Again, our D coordinator does that and puts that on. Another thing we do is go to the Mary Campbell Center. Mary Campbell Center, we help out with kids with all different types of issues. We hosted the Halloween party there for a while. They loved it. We're the football team, and one of my quarterback, oh my God, the girl had a crush on my quarterback. So, that was a whole funny scenario. But these are kids obviously who can't, do a lot, don't have that privilege. And it helps our kids, just be a little bit more humble when they go to these things and go, man, wow, here's a kid that's stuck in a wheelchair and I'm complaining because, I have to walk somewhere. So really put in perspective, some things for our kids. So if you're not already doing that, go ahead and give it a try. You can connect with a lot of local people. It's been great for us. But yeah, that's been something that has been super awesome. Another thing we do in the off season is, as a coaching staff, I like to think of my coaches as my family. So whenever we meet on Sunday nights and we have dinner. There is always a giant dinner. Someone's got to bring dinner every week. During the season, we meet every week. Big dinner at one of our coaches' house. He's got a nice setup, and we all have dinner. Throughout the off season, we'll meet either, depending on when it is, generally once a month. During the clinic season, we don't meet because we normally go to clinic, but we try to meet once a month and bring dinner. And it just brings us closer together as a staff. Again, if you're not already doing that, give it a try. You really can just take time to talk about non-football things, and that's great because, we get wrapped up in football, and that just dominates everything. Another thing we do is all of our coaches, I don't know how many head coaches we got on here, but all of our coaches have to go to one clinic. We pay for Glazier. It's mandatory for all of my staff. We go to one clinic. You can pick one of the Glazier ones. That's the beauty of it. If you can't go this week, you go some other time. But every coach has to go to some sort of clinic, just because it's going to help you. It's going to make you a better person. And like they say, even if you come away with one thing, but go to at least one clinic or something. You have to have some sort of professional development as a coach and understand that you don't know everything. That's tough, especially as a head coach. You want to be the guy in charge, but then you got to remember there's these other guys that have been doing it for 30 and 50 years, and you have so much to learn. So if you're not already doing that and it's not mandated, I strongly suggest head coaches, you mandate that you go to at least one clinic. And we love it. We generally hang out at one of them for the weekend as a staff. Another thing, we all play softball. We started a softball team, joined the rec league. So we all get to hang out. There's some other people on there, some of our coaches' kids or friends, because we're a little older. But we all play softball together. Again, just another bonding thing for the coaches, because these are the people who are with you in the most stressful situations. So you want to make sure you understand your coaching staff. How do they react when things aren't going well, not just in football? Is there something else that you should know about your coach? So the closer you guys can get, the better your chemistry is going to be.
And Coach, I just want to, what you're saying is striking a chord to me, and I just want to piggyback off of it to everyone here. I think it's so important. Number one, yes, to create a culture with your players, but probably even more difficult from what I'm seeing now going into my second year as a head coach is creating a culture with your coaches. When I came on, there was 4 coaches that I had to let go from the previous staff. Well, really, they let themselves go. But, I mean, in the middle of a COVID year. And so I think doing all these things and being patient, I think, is extremely important with building that culture with your coaches. Because, like you said, at the end of the day, in 4 years, you're gonna have kids graduate. You're gonna recycle kids every year. And the hope is that those coaches stay with you for however long your tenure is. So what you're saying is striking a chord with me, Coach, and it's really important. Like I'm trying to have coaches parties once a month. We meet optional meetings every Sunday. I bring breakfast. So I think what you're saying is so important. I mean, it's so incredibly important. So.
Well, look, hey, Brad, man, it is important. Like I said, for me, when I got started, I remember being young. I remember learning from, I had a great coach, Coach K. If you don't know Coach K from Concord, he's a legend. I was, Coach K was doing everything. He had his voice. You better do this, Isaiah. I go to him for all kind of advice, wearing shorts just like him because he would wear shorts. So I know I picked that up from him. But he always talked about just being a good person, and he always talked about his staff. Whoever you hire, make sure you can trust them and they're loyal. And that was like a big thing for me. So yeah, definitely anything you could do to build your coaching staff is going to help you tremendously. Again, the closer you are, it's really going to help you when you're in that pressure situation. So I hit my 8-minute mark. I got a couple more things for you guys. Thanks for bearing with me. I got a little bit more of a presentation. I'll breeze through it as quick as possible. And then any questions you guys have, I'll always feel free to answer them now or later. So before I get into the next part, I will say this. After installing the stuff we did for culture and, some of the stuff I talked about, one thing we were able to do, especially in a COVID year that a lot of teams were not able to do, was field practically a full team. We're a team that has not been, successful in terms of championships and playoff runs. But not very many people were able to say that during the COVID year, at a team that has been around 500 we've been there for 2 years, we were able to get 50 people out on the field, right? Of a program that's not known for football at all. To have 50 people out on the field says the kids want to be there. So that was a testament, I think, to my coaching staff being great. And then us doing it, as I said earlier, the exact right way. So a document that we came up with, because of the time schedule, we had to practice weird hours for COVID. It was crazy. I came up with a new practice schedule. I had one before, it was decent. But this one was extremely detailed. I have a coach on my staff who's awesome at technology, and he built us a timer. So he's been working on this project, and he built a timer that goes off every 5 minutes, so we know that the period is over. If you have not done that in your practices, I strongly suggest you try it, just because it changed everything for us. As soon as that horn goes off, our kids are moving. And I've seen it done before, and we tried it too a little bit. But to really actually do it changed everything. The big thing was the freshmen and the new kids, they only know what you tell them. So because we're saying this is how we do it, in their mind, oh, I got to go. Oh, I got to do this. And those other kids who were seniors, we only had a few, they just adapted because everybody else was, oh, this is how you do it here. We had a lot of, young kids, especially, and some good leaders. So on one of our practice schedules, again, this is probably the most detailed, I would say, I've been. I'll share that with you guys. So I have 2. I have an offensive one and a defensive one from later on. So here's a offensive one. Let me get to that one. Hold on a sec. So here's an offensive one that we kind of used, okay, to really kind of make sure I maximized every second. So if you kind of look at it, here's our periods over here on the left. Okay, again, every 5 minutes, okay, a bell is going off every 5 minutes. And we just put the time here to know that we're starting at 3:45 to 4 o'clock for our dynamic stretches. Okay, all the coaches are in front of the line, making sure that everybody's working, right? Sometimes we tend to just hang out and be in the corner. We want all our coaches in front of the line, all right, coaching the stretch. Okay, good thing about coaching the stretch, you get to see kids in a different state. You get a chance maybe to talk with your player, ask him how his day was. Maybe there's a kid you don't get to talk to a lot, and this is a great time to talk to him, okay, just during the stretch period. So, again, take advantage of that time if you are not doing so already. But we break everything down, like I said, 5-minute periods. So here we'll spend 10 minutes on conditioning, whatever it is. And this day we did gassers, have specific times already, let the kids know the times. We spend time on special teams. Okay, I think that was one thing that some teams take for granted. And that was one thing that gave us an advantage. Okay, we spend time on special teams. Okay, and you should spend time a lot more on it probably than you probably already do. But definitely spend time for that. Make sure you give each coach something to do. That was one thing I didn't do earlier on. Okay, you see down here, this is just our little, offensive team period. We call it fetch. But everybody has a job. Okay, who's signaling it in? Okay, who's spotting the ball? Who's got the ready for play whistle? All right, and then teach your kids to learn those officials. Okay, the umpire is the person that's spotting the ball. Your kids need to know, okay, the umpire is the guy that's spotting the ball in the middle of the field. Okay, who's the line judge? What's his position? What's the purpose of the linesman? Okay, if you don't know that, learn it. I was an official, so that was a great thing for me. But teach your kids that in practice. Okay, teach that in practice. If you look on the sides here, okay, of our practice schedule, these are just things you guys can add. As a head coach, these are some things that I'll walk around. I'll say, hey, if it's, let's say it's offensive period, right? And, we can always change these in and out. Hey, what are we working on today? Okay, what are we doing today? Okay, you can substitute this stuff in for whatever it is you do. But that way, as a head coach, because, offensive days I'm coaching running backs. Defensive days I'm just, making sure practice is happening. But I can go around and see what everybody worked on what day. Okay, so that has been great for me. Again, you can change those out however you want. And then down here, of course, you can get into your installations. Then you run your special team stuff down there, along with any other plays you want to script. And this is how we ran practice this year. And considering our time constraints and everything, our time constraints, this worked out beautifully. So if you don't have a script, I encourage you to get one. It may not be as detailed as this, but the more detailed you are with your script, the more you can, help yourself out, help your team out. As a head coach, it's going to make your life a lot easier. I give one to the managers. Here's one for you. Speaking of that, giving one to the managers. If you are a head coach, this is a must. You must get yourself, okay, drum roll, a DFO. Okay, a DFO is Director of Football Operations. So for us, let me tell you about what a Director of Football Operations is. I had a kid who couldn't play his senior year. He helped out as the equipment manager. He really likes the program, didn't have great grades, wasn't sure of college. So I said, why don't you come back next year? We'll find something for you. So he helped out, and was it his second year? Yeah, second year. He was the equipment manager. I made him the guy. Okay. The next year, I made him the senior equipment manager. He took pride in being the senior equipment manager. And his job was to train any other managers, any girls that come and want to help out the water. His job is to train everybody. I train him. He trains everybody else. He makes sure the field is set. He makes sure all of our equipment in the equipment room is organized. That's his job. Once he was doing a good job with that, he started coming to the coaching clinics with us. and I promoted him to DFO, which is Director of Football Operations. The Director of Football Operations now handles any of those small things that Coach Mays has zero time for. He's making sure the lunches is set up, making sure somebody calls somebody, reminding me to call somebody. When we go to a clinic, I'll talk to somebody about a uniform and give him the paper. He puts it in a folder, and then he comes to me later, and we sit down and we talk about all the things I need to make sure I do. Because as a head coach, I forget. I don't have the brain capacity. But having that kid there, and he loves it. I should show the film of him just walking on the field. He bought new sunglasses. He got brand new shades on, out there like a beach cop. He's like taking it seriously. He's embracing it. But what we did is we brought him into the culture, and he believes I'm the DFO. Then when we went to the clinic, he met the Rutgers DFO. So now he has connections with other DFOs, takes their numbers and everything. But he is 20, I guess he's like 21 now. But he does a great job. He texts me, hey, coach, I'm at the school. I'm at the locker room. The helmets came in. He counts every helmet, all the inventory. He counts the whole thing. I don't do any of that. He sets the field, puts all the stuff out. And it makes my life a whole lot easier because you got to worry about parents and COVID. Coaching during COVID is like crazy. It's not even football. Okay, so if you don't have a DFO to the head coaches, get a DFO. Now, remember, they may do some dumb stuff and you're going to get mad because I get mad. But that has been a tremendous help to me. And then the last thing I'll share with you guys, again, thanks for sticking with me. Try not to be too long-winded here. Let me exit my slideshow. Last thing I'll share with you guys is just a little bit about our culture and how we say we do it the exact right way. So, all right. Hopefully you guys should all be able to see that. All right. So again, we call this doing it the exact right way. Share this with my kids and my staff, okay, and some of the parents. So one of the things we spent time on, again, with COVID, was understanding the foundation, right? We want a good foundation because at the end of the day, we want to play fast. We want our kids to be focused and we want them to finish. Okay, that's what we go by, fast, focus, and finish, right? So the way we teach it, we start at the very bottom. In order to play fast, there are some things you got to know. Number one, your kids need fundamentals. And the other thing is human performance. So when we talk about human performance, we're just talking about that kid on his day-to-day life, feelings, emotions, and daily operations. Okay, if we get those things in check, right, we move up to the next, you can say quadrant or whatever, not quadrant, next area on the pyramid, which is skill acquisition and concepts, right? That's where you start actually talking about some football stuff. And then at the very top, and the smallest part of that triangle, is execution, right? That's running the plays and then, scoring the touchdown, catching the big pass or whatever. But the biggest part of this pyramid is human performance, right? So to put it in perspective, a play for us, right? When we execute a play, so actually running the play, all right, it takes about 4 to 6 seconds. Okay, plays in general, when we're going over them and installing them, somewhere between 4 to 6 minutes. Concepts, right? What kind of concepts we're running, that could be 4 to 6 hours. The actual skill of something, whether it's a blocking technique, can take a whole week, 4 to 6 days. Fundamentals, right? We always talk about preaching fundamentals, that's 4 to 6 weeks. But the human performance of a kid, right? Generally, that's a 4 to 6 months or all 12 months, depending on what you're dealing with. Right? We have a season that starts in August and ends in December if you're playing for the chip. You've got to be able to deal with that kid's, right, human performance every single day for that time period, right? But we don't spend as much time dealing with it. And that has been something significant that I have changed as a coach. At the end of the day, right, if I spend time on that, that fast wheel turns, right? Going back to the previous slide, we now have a outcome-focused culture, right? Because I understand how my kid ticks. I understand how my kid works. By understanding how my kid works, my kid can now focus and play football because he's not thinking about the things in his daily life, right? There's nothing worse than calling the perfect play, but that kid broke up with his girlfriend that day, so he didn't feel like doing it. He didn't feel like doing it, right? And then I didn't talk to that kid earlier, so I don't know that he broke up with his girlfriend. That's a problem, okay? That's a problem. And a lot of head coaches, we love X's and O's, but the psychology of our kids, for me at Brandywine, is one of the most important things. This was something I picked up as a teacher, just talking about the iceberg culture. If you just take a look at it, at the top of it, that's kind of the things you see. So we call that the surface culture. Easily seen by you and the staff at practice. What they listen to, how they dress, how they talk, those things. Right below that, they call it the shallow culture. So the shallow culture is going to be those things that you can kind of see, right? But, it's not a definite, but you can kind of see it. So facial expressions, body language, right? Maybe eye contact or something like that. You may say, hey, is he okay today? Not quite sure. All right. But the biggest thing I want you guys to take a look at is that deep culture, right? Deep culture is now really understanding your kid. How does my kid operate? What makes him tick? What makes him go? Okay. How does he solve problems? Does my kid have an IEP? If so, what does he get extra help in? Right? Or does his position coach know that this kid has an IEP so he learns differently? Okay. Have you taken the time to figure out those things, right? So they put it on the shape of an iceberg, just so you can see that an iceberg is way bigger underneath the water than what you actually see. And this is how I approach dealing with and approach handling our kids. They are way more than just an athletic wide receiver. Some of them are kids that come from broken homes and they're looking for their next meal. So they work 4 jobs, but learn that deep culture of your kids. Okay. It will tremendously help your kids play faster when they trust you, right? And when they understand that you care about them, right? So in a nutshell, to sum it up, earn their trust, focus on fundamentals in the deep culture. If you do that, your team will play faster. They'll pick up concepts. They'll pick up skills. They'll be able to focus. And then you'll have an outcome-based culture or finish, plays, execution, right? And then that surface culture we talk about. Now that's different for some kids, right? Those are the things that happen. And we just like to play fast and move fast. And this is the very last thing I promised. Like I said, I'll try to get out of here by 8:30 or be done talking by 8:30 at the latest. This is without a doubt the biggest thing I think I've come up with or done at Brandywine High School. So what I did is I take each kid's grades. I find every kid on my team, and I made all kinds of charts, graphs, stats, compiled everything. So when I took over in 2015, as you can see, GPA is on the left, wins are on the right. The GPA was one of the hardest things to deal with. Every year, it's always grades. But noticing the correlation between our grades and our wins. Each year, I've tried to focus more and more on grades and try to see what I could do to better our team. But as you can see, our grades have went up and our wins have went up. Okay, each year that our grades have went up, we've also increased the amount of kids that have played post-secondary players or post-secondary football, sorry. My first year, we had one kid who played at I don't even know what it was, some school up north. Think he's still trying to play semi-pro, decent kid at best. By the time we got to 2019, 2020, our team GPA was a 2.3. and we had 4 kids go on to play post-secondary ball. So again, there's a direct correlation with your kids' grades and the wins usually. Now, of course, it does take talent, but the grades help out tremendously if you haven't really focused on it. So one thing, and I'll share briefly with you guys what we do. We do this thing called pathways. So at Brandywine, again, noticing that the grades were terrible my first year, we worked together to put something on paper to where our kids understand what it takes to get to the next level. So essentially, our Pathways program, kids can pick 3 different avenues. Again, it's a lot of work that I put into it, but for me, it works. So this is what works for us. So we have kids, we call them P1. My P1 athletes are kids that want to play football at the next level. If you say, I want to play college ball or NFL, and you're serious about it, we would consider them a P1. Now, I haven't put all the list of requirements on there. I left that out for the presentation's sake. But essentially what we do is we give them a piece of paper, and the whole program is laid out for each kid. We have Pathway 1, Pathway 2, and Pathway 3. All of our kids get one as soon as they get to school. So your freshman year, we started this, it kind of got grandfathered into this past year's senior class, but I started it kind of like 3 years ago. We were fooling around with it 3 years ago, solidified it 2 years ago. And each kid gets it, they take it home, they read each pathway, 1, 2, or 3, they select one, they sign it, and their parent signs it, and then they bring it back to me. That way I know exactly what my kid is. He's a kid that wants to play at the next level. All right, here's what you got to do. If they meet those requirements, I do above and beyond to make sure they get to the next level. Things such as take them on trips. We go see college coaches, go to different colleges. You know, we provide extra services for the kids that meet the requirements of our P1 program. Okay, P2 is kind of like a kid who's like, maybe I want to play, but I'm not sure. And that's cool. You sign off P2. I'm not calling you when a coach comes. I'm not expecting you to be at every workout all the time. I'm not asking you if you want to go on this trip because I know that you are somewhat serious. Okay, I'm only asking the P1 kid. Now, this kid can change, and we do have a process for how you change. You don't just get promoted. It's a whole process. But this, again, outlines, all right, this kid is in this category. Okay, he kind of wants to play. And then our last one is P3. That's just a kid that says, Coach, I just want to be on the team. I don't want to play at the next level. I just want to play football while I'm in high school, which is totally fine. Again, allows us as coaches to know, all right, he's a P3 athlete. His career is done at high school. You know, we still provide everything during the season. Out of season, I'm not reaching out to that kid. Again, him and his parents signed that letter. I'm not reaching out to that kid. So if little Johnny's a P3 and then all of a sudden wonders why he's not got scholarships, well, you and your parents signed this letter. Here's what you chose. There you are. Okay. Obviously, it takes talent, you know, aside from the things we ask, but generally, here's where you are. There are GPA requirements for each one. Okay. And if you don't meet the top one, you get demoted. And I think that has been tremendous for us. I put together a team report card of every position. So we did offense on this particular one. This was the previous GPA of the positions. Here's the current GPA of the positions. And here's the kids that were the highest, had the highest GPA. Here's my kids that had the lowest. Now, when I show it to the kids, I generally take off the kids that had the lowest, but I always show the kids that had the highest because they should be celebrated. Okay, so again, a lot of work that I put into it because you got to get every kid's grade. But when they see this, they go, oh my gosh, you guys are only a D. Oh my gosh, you guys are only a C, right? Creating the P1 program. Now I got kids that are signed up to be a P1 athlete, and some of them don't even want to play in college. Their parents said, you know what? I don't care if you play in college or not. You're a P1 athlete. And again, I do things like check-ins and stuff with them all year, but those kids have to meet those requirements. In my office, the other day, I had 8 of my P1 kids. Every one of them but one had over a cumulative of 3.1. everyone but one had over a 3.1 from the P1 kids. So again, for me, it worked. But it's all about what works and what is winning for you guys off the field. Again, it makes it realistic now. Some kids are going to go to school and maybe get a degree and get a job. Other kids are going to end up at like a Penn State and maybe potentially go to the league. But we provide that post-secondary opportunity. Okay, the last thing I'll share with you guys is what we have for our academic club ideas. If you guys don't have academic club ideas already, definitely strongly consider you look into it. We do something that we'll be starting called Alpha Dogs. Alpha Dogs are just our top academic athletes. So we'll recognize one from each grade, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, and they'll be our Alpha Dogs because we're the Bulldogs. So kind of look at things like, as you see, the Husky High Five, okay, or student athletes over there at Ryder. We came up with Alpha Dogs. Who's the Alpha Dog in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. And anything you can do to compete, kids love it. They always want to compete. At the end of the day, I hope you guys took something away from all this material. It's something I've spent time really developing because at the end of the day, this stuff means something to me. So I put my heart and soul into it, and my kids have responded. I know so far from the kids I've checked, our team GPA this year is a 2.5 something, and that was our goal, to have a team GPA of a 2.5. So far we have a 2.5. Report cards come out in a couple weeks. We'll see how well that holds up. But we're around a 2.5 now. What was the other thing? Oh, another thing that I'll say in terms of the correlation. Like I said, we grandfathered that program in. The kids that were at the top level, or not the top level, sorry. My seniors, we had some kids fell off, like right before the Concord game. I lost my best D lineman. They were all seniors. They failed one class. I think I had like 4 or 5 seniors fell off. I think I had maybe 3 juniors, and then I had 2 sophomores. Now of my, what did I have, 16 or 17 freshmen, 0 freshmen failed off. 0. And that to me was a testament of them understanding, oh, wow, this is what I have to do to play. So that's it. Hope you guys were able to take something away from everything I shared with you guys. I'll take any questions if you have any.
Well, Coach, I just want to say I think you did an absolutely excellent job. That was a fantastic presentation. And its culture it's such a part of this game that gets overlooked because the X's and O's do not mean anything if your culture is not there. So I think that was an excellent presentation. Guys, like Coach said, if you got any questions, now's the time. Speak now, forever hold your peace. I am going to put one more time the link to where you can find the recording in the chat. But other than that, Coach, thank you.